provide them and fill them up with the gaps that they have, okay? And it's true, some students do not write good notes, and it might be because of multiple reasons, because they couldn't attend the class, because of some other distractions, because they were just not paying attention. You don't know. So you as a teaching assistant are there to provide them that extra knowledge so that they can perform well on their tests. And also, the professor's mental model does not really match the reality sometimes. And sometimes professors are overwhelmed with their own work and they might not be able to take a lecture or so on and so forth. So you are there again to assist them and to help the professors so that they can reach out to the students in a better way. So what are students looking for? Students are looking for anybody, the one at the back in the purple. What are students looking for? If you are a student, what are you looking for?
From the TA?
From the TA or from the class?
Well, clarification about what's been kind of thrown at them in lecture.
Sure. You and what else? Anybody else? You can just discuss with us. It's a very friendly, informal class. It's a workshop, so let's make it as interactive as possible. Here.
I think that a lot of times they're just looking for you to make the class easier for them. And I think sometimes you can and sometimes you can't.
How can you do that? How can you make the class easier? You're right.
Well, you can tell them about how to study and what to study. You can't tell them exactly what's going to be on the exam or what the answers are going to be.
That's right. That's right. So make sure that you have a strong syllabus and organization of your class. We'll talk about organization further as we proceed today throughout the day. But however, make sure that your syllabus is strong. So many of you already told us that you have been appointed as a TA. What was the first thing that you did? Or what is the first thing that you'll do if you haven't done it yet?
Contact the professor.
Perfect. You will contact the professor. You'll email him or her, meet up with them, see where you need to fill in. Some professors want you to teach in the class. Some professors just want you to grade. Some professors don't want you to grade the final exams. It depends on where you want to, how they want to use you. You want to be at their disposal. So make sure that you meet up with the professor and see what you can do, okay? And then also talk about the syllabus to them and see if if they want any input from you as a TA on how they can change the structure of their syllabus, the way they're giving out their points, okay? And maybe you can help out there too, because we are also students and we know how students work, right? So that's the advantage. And the other is ask students in their first day of the class, so what's your goal for today? What's your goal for today? Why are we here? We want to be happy, love life.
I guess I'm here today to hopefully gain some useful information that I can use in my TA.
Exactly.
Whatever you say.
You're here, many of you might already be oriented in teaching, but we are here so that we can become better TAs, right? That's why you're here. So make sure that in your first discussion class, you ask your students what are the goals for the class. What do they think they want to learn from the class? And see if you can provide them or fill them up with those so that they can achieve those goals that they have. And then we stress here at UCR about having feedback channels. Why are feedback channels so important? And what is a feedback channel? The one in the back. I'm sorry, I don't know names.
Alright. What was the question?
What are feedback? What's a feedback? What are feedback channels?
Hearing from the students about how they felt about lecture, reading material, how the professor is giving the lecture.
Why are feedbacks important? Why is it important?
So you know how the students are doing in the class?
Exactly. And also,
we can only
they're not able to understand. So understanding that and detecting that right early in your program or in your class will help you. You know, so we suggest you to have as much as feedback and open communication with your students. What is open communication?
I'd just say like feeling comfortable enough to speak with someone is open communication. Like if it's not one way, like the TA isn't, I don't know, ruling the class with an iron fist. It's that students feel comfortable coming in.
Perfect. So remember, you must have already heard this, but being the teaching assistant, you are the master of your room. You are there in the room to establish credibility, right, authority. But at the same time, please do not abuse that power. So if you have an open communication, if students have your emails at their disposal, which you're going to write down right on the first day of your class, right, that what's your email, so that they know when to contact you and how to contact you, then they will be able, that will foster their learning experience. So we will definitely suggest you to always have your emails available to them. Then generating feedback. We talk about feedback as a sandwich technique here. It's because of PSP, positive, suggestion, and positive. You ask the students, you tell them positively, you ask them how you can improve. Suggestion, they are giving you a suggestion. And again, it's positive because you're going to give them back, you're going to deliver them in a positive manner so they can do better and so that you can do better, right? So that's why it's a PSP technique. And it's something that we would suggest all of you to use in your work. And there are various ways of increasing feedback, like just like I'm asking many of you, you can just have an open discussion in the class, or you can have other forms of feedbacks, and we'll talk about them further. And one more thing that we want you to learn through the fun activity that you did just a few minutes back is peer instruction. If I wanted to teach about the old alphabet Greek letter, Dad, what's the letter? What is it called?
It's called the digamma.
The digamma. If I wanted to teach that here, standing at the podium, I would have taken 30 minutes to teach it. But Don taught it in like 1 minute to me. Why did I learn it better from him? Because it's more personable. A peer is teaching me, so it's more personable. So see if you can use the same technique because students know the barriers that they're facing. So let me give you a personal experience. When I TA and I go into the class and when I deliver my lecture, I prepare for my lecture beforehand. And every time in my lecture, the first 5 minutes is a recap of the lecture that was already taught. So it's a recap, since I am conducting discussion, I want the discussion to gel with the lecture. So I just recap the lecture. So next time what I'll ask is, hey Steve, so can you basically talk to us about, can you brief us about the lecture that was taught yesterday in the class? So that Steve prepares for the discussion and comes to the discussion, and it's just easier for us as his peers to understand what he's teaching us, right? And he'll also talk to us about the various barriers that he faced while learning the material. So see if you can use this technique called peer instruction, because that will be very helpful. So what is the first thing you'll do when you enter your classroom?
Greet them.
Excellent, you will greet them, that's right. It's as simple as that. Many people do not do that, and we do have TAs who come to us and ask us for suggestions, and they do not greet their students. Please make it a habit to greet your students, to smile, to create that welcoming atmosphere where they can ask you questions and you facilitate them for a better learning style. So greeting is the most important thing. The other point is when we are with a lot of people who we do not know, what happens? Can anybody tell me what happens to them personally? The one in yellow? What happens when you're in a group of people ask their names and
Maybe let everyone
no,
introduce
if you
themselves.
are a student and you are entering a room and you don't know many people, what's the feeling you have within yourself?
Nervous?
You're nervous, exactly, right? We have butterflies in our stomach. Is that right? Right? We feel some of us even feel nauseous. I know that. So the way we can reduce that is by breaking the ice, having a fun activity, a team building, activity for the first few minutes of your discussion for the whole quarter will help. It'll help build that team spirit. It'll help students know each other. It'll also help you relate to the student because you'll know something a little more about the student, right? So see if you can use this ice-breaking technique. That's what we did, if you noticed, as soon as I entered into the class, right? So it helps. And open communication, we already talked about it. And student recognition. I'm sure that you already would, Megan talked about rapport, right, already? So you already know how important it is to recognize a student as an individual and not as an entity who's just entering your class. So please be aware of that. And then clarifies lecture. This is a tricky question because it's tricky because students expect this, and it's tricky because professors really do not tell us exactly what we are supposed to do. They'll just be like, okay, take care of this in the discussion. But how we plan the discussion is up to us, right? So that is why we talk about this. And one specific technique that I use is the I Learn chat room technique. If you are not aware, we have the special sessions from 1 to 2 today, and we have a session on Blackboard. I don't know how many of you know, but we have a new Blackboard from this Monday. How many of you know what I Learn is? All of you? It's an online portal, right, where you communicate with your students and professors, and where they communicate with you. So make sure that you attend our session if you haven't registered yet. So I would suggest you to use the I Learn chat room technique because it's similar to your Google Chat or Yahoo chat rooms, but this is a classroom, a virtual classroom that you will create. And you can have an office hour, an extended office hour there, or any help that the students need, you can cater to their needs. So again, talking about feedback. We talked about how important feedback is, right? And so there are different ways of feedback, and the best feedback is fast and it's efficient, it's detailed and constructive. And there are various ways of having the feedback. These are some of the ways. Questionnaires, discuss openly with your students. Self-reflection, this helps me a lot because sometimes we have like 30 or 40 students coming and talking to us at once, and we just say yes because we just want to go to the next student, right? So we'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, just email me or something. So it just helps you to reflect back to what you said in the classroom in that 1 hour, just in case, So I always use my iPhone or my BlackBerry to just make those notes, so it helps me. The next is peer review and videotaping and consultation. Here at TADP, we are here for you. We are also TAs. So we are here, if you request us or if you ask us for it, we are here to videotape and you can have a one-to-one consultation with us. So email us if you need any help, if you want us to just sit in your classroom and you want to see how you've been performing. It's very useful because we don't have a mirror here that shows how my facial expressions are, how my gestures are. And maybe once I see my video, I'll be like, oh my God, I never want to do this ever in my life again. Or maybe you'll think, oh, this specific gesture was so cool, I'm sure the students like this specific gesture. And so you'll continue to do that. So see how you can use it. We're there for you. That's what we're trying to say. So finally, we would like to discuss about I-eval or course evaluations. Do you all know what I-eval is? All of you? Do you need any information about it? So I-eval is they're evaluations that we look for when we see if you're in trouble. Okay, so the students are asked to evaluate you 4.0, forbid not, we don't want any of you to have less than 4.0. If anything, we want to see you as excellent teachers and outstanding teachers in UCR. But if you do have less than 4.0, then we are here to provide you that extra guidance to get you to your 6.0 grade scale. Okay? So, but however, when you interpret your course evaluations, take a good note of what is working for you and what is not. And also check out the areas which you should change, where you can improve on, and some areas which you think you're doing great and you just need to continue doing great, okay? But one thing that I would like to suggest is, as a TA, I get my course evaluations at the end of the quarter. So by the time I want to make changes, my evaluations are already out and my class is already over, right? So I can't implement my changes. So that's why I would suggest you to have a questionnaire or a feedback channel in between your 4th and 5th week, so that you know where you're standing in front of your class and you know where you need to improve, so that you can make those changes within the class itself. So these are the instruction criteria. So how many of you are teaching labs here? TAing labs? Few of you? And how many of you are TAing for discussions? Most of you are for discussions? Nice. So lab, we have all this in our handout, so I just want you to make sure that you pay attention to these criteria, because you will be graded on these, you'll be evaluated on these criteria. First, lab explains in a constructive way any errors in my techniques, observations, and results. Anybody else wants to read the next point? The one in green, the first.
Teaches me how to evaluate my data on the board.
So you all understand what that means. Next. Okay, we can go one by one.
Encourages me to ask questions.
So welcoming atmosphere again.
Gives useful feedback on lab reports and exams.
That's true. So remember this specific point. This is even true for discussions. If you have exams that you're conducting or quizzes that you're conducting, you can deduct points for the student, but you need to let the student know why they haven't done well. The reason is, when they again do the same mistake, you feel really bad as a teacher. I tell you that with experience. So if you let them know where they're making a mistake, they won't repeat it again, and the next time when their grades are high, you yourself will be extremely happy about it. Okay? The next one, discussion. Okay, can you read it for us?
Okay. Explains the relevancy of the material.
So gelling your lecture and your discussion is extremely important.
Clarifies lectures and readings.
Excellent. So you need to clarify the lecture.
Encourages my participation through questions and or classroom activities.
So having team building activities, some type of icebreakers always help. And asking students for interaction helps. So having an interactive, welcoming atmosphere is important for you to be authoritative in your classroom. Next, please.
Creates a classroom atmosphere where I feel free to ask questions.
Gives useful feedback on assignments and exams.
Thank you. So anybody have any questions on this? Is this all clear, the criteria that you are evaluated on? Yeah? Okay. So now I want you all to do a simple exercise. I want you to think back and recollect your best teacher. The best teacher that we're talking about can be somebody from your kindergarten, or somebody in your undergrad, or somebody like your advisor right now. They can be 1 or 2 people. And what are the